thought process and how it enables us to know objects around us. We were discussing in this context, in fact. This is an old Upanishadic classification that the world consists of, or it is constituted by Naam and Rupa. Constituted by Naam and Rupa. So this is what we were discussing yesterday with reference to this Panchaskandha. That language is naming one, language is naming is knowing, right? When you name an object, you know it also, right? And this is a mental process. Naming and knowing both relate to our mental process, right? So these three things go together. And थोड़ा सा ऑफ कर लीजिए, रिक्टर इज कॉलिंग. हाँ जी सर, जी सर. हाँ नहीं, मैं 24 को ज्वाइन करूँगा, 23 तक छुट्टी करूँगा. हाँ 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 ना, पूछा तो नहीं था ना. वो जो नया, हाँ नया जो आया है उसके लिए. हाँ 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 ना ना, ऐसे कोई बात नहीं. नहीं नहीं, हाँ नहीं, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है. शायद उसमें लिखा भी था कि वो है नहीं हमारे पास, वो अपडेटेड हो गया. ठीक ठीक ठीक. इसको स्विच ऑफ कर देता हूँ सर. ओके, सॉरी. हाँ. So language is naming is knowing, and both are, naming and knowing both are the mental process. See why I am saying this. Under name, this is an old classification of the world, that the world is made of Naam and Rupa. Naam, name, and Rupa, form. Okay, form not physical only, conceptual also. So the Roop helps us to distinguish one object from another. That's why it is called Rupa, form. So under name, see how complex this is. This may be considered as the Buddhist contribution, because Upanishads do not elaborate what does this mean. Naam is elaborated, explained here in Buddhism. That's why right from the beginning I have been telling that don't divide philosophical system in opposite groups like Astik and Nastik. There is lots of interaction between them. Okay? So in absence of one, it will be extremely difficult to understand the other. Right? This is how 16 philosophical systems have developed. 16 philosophical systems are described in Sarva Darshan Sangrah of Madhavacharya. Yes, this is the text, Sarva Darshan Sangrah by Madhavacharya. 14th, 15th century text. You have this 16 philosophical systems. There are 16 chapters in this book, in this grantha, and each one is described there. So, and you see, he is a Vedantist. Madhavacharya is a Vedanta philosopher. He doesn't give you any impression that philosophical system is like Astik or Nastik. He is describing them, starting from Charvak and ending with Advaita Vedanta. See, so here you have Vijnana, Vedana, Samgya, Sanskara. Under name, these four are included, and these all are conceptual, inner self, part of the inner self. So Vijnan, that appears in the form of the object outside. This is the argument of the Vijnanavadins, Yogacharya Vijnanavada. So this is Vijnana. Vedana, knowledge, coming from the verb root vid, to know, okay, knowledge. Sangya is awareness of the object. When somebody utters the word, we become aware of that. So for example, Patanjali in his Mahabhashya explains, defines a shabda. It's a polyvalent term. In Sanskrit, this is a polyvalent term. It means sound, any sound. Then a speech sound. Any distinction between the two? Can you make any distinction? Sound in general and a speech sound.
Sound is, we recognize it as a language. Sound is
Articulated through our vocal organs, so sound is there also, but that sound we are not including. Okay, it's an articulated one. Speech sound, phonemes, that is relevant in language. And then you have also this word. I am not writing with capital D, capital W, because that will mean something different. Then language in general, and also you can say sentence as well, and the ultimate reality. In so many ways, Shabda has been defined, Shabda has been discussed. Shabda Brahma. This is the concept of Shabda Brahma. And sound, speech sound, out of the given sound. See, language, this is important to note, that language functions on the principle of economy. Principle of economy. Less effort or words and more, explanation. Okay? So principle of economy. It starts from here itself. You see, there are so many sounds we can produce through our vocal organs, but out of that we select a few. Okay? Select a few. That becomes our alphabet system. Alphabet. Alphabet system. We call it Varnamala, right? Varnamala. Garland of speech sounds. Garland. Mala, garland of speech sound. This is such an old term. Such an old term. Where it is discussed in the tantric texts. See how Indian texts, Shastras, are interrelated. You cannot explain if you do not know the Tantra system, Varnamala. What does this mean? Garland of speech sound, garland of letters, or whatever. What does this mean? Does this make any sense to us unless we know that background, the context which is there? It is coming from the Tantric tradition, Agamic tradition, Agam and Tantra. So in Buddhism also you have Tantra, Agam. Agama or Tantra. Tantra. Right? There you will see that in iconography, tantric iconography, goddess wears a garland of having 50 weeds. 50 weeds. So that is a garland, right? Each one represent a particular speech sound. Each one. So, and garland also means that this is not simply a collection, but a specific arrangement of these speech sounds. A specific arrangement based on certain phonetic features. Okay? So you have ka, cha, ta, ta, pa, right? This one, ka, cha, ta, ta, and pa. Ta and pa. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 3, 4, 5, and here also 5, 5 into 5 system. 5 into 5, 25, all consonants you have here, and there is a specific arrangement. Initially you have voiceless sound, and then in fact there cannot be a sound which is voiceless. This is the problem of terminology. How can be a sound voiceless? It has to be voiced. The question is less vibration or more vibration. So ghosh and aghosh, this is the term. Ghosh and aghosh. Ghosh varna, ghosh and aghosh. Ghosh and aghosh. So these terms are more, properly considered. Ghosh and aghosh. Refers, it has 6 meanings. This negative prefix has 6 meanings. So slight, here it refers to slight vibration, less vibration in comparison to this. So, and then here you have unaspirated, then aspirated, then unaspirated, then aspirated. Ka is unaspirated, kha is aspirated, ga is again unaspirated, gha is aspirated. So this one, ka and kha are voiceless, and ga and gha are voiced. This arrangement is followed, and you will be surprised to know this is discussed at length in 3000 BC text, Vajasneyi Pratishakya. It's a phonetic text. Pratishakya texts are associated with the Vedic articulation, phonetics, Vedic phonetics. So it still holds. And in modern times, when linguistics developed as a distinct discipline, university discipline, let us say, then these observations, these insights became the basis for IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, because parameters are defined there. How do you describe a sound? And what does this mean? Varna. Varna means color. Varna mala. Varna. Varna means color. How does this relate to sound? Color is perceived by eyes. Why it is used here? Sound is perceived by ear. Color has no role to play here for ears. Why? Because color helps us. You can understand it in terms of distinctive features, what the modern linguists say. So at least one feature should be there to distinguish one speech sound from another. Okay, one from another. For example, ka and kha both have the same place of articulation. This throat, ka, kha. In the beauty of classification, you see, you start from here and end to here. Bilabial sound, pa, from ka to systematically, from here to lips, systematically, one after another. So the whole series is articulated from throat, then palate, then retroflex, and like that, palate and all. So at least one feature should be distinctive. So ka and kha both are articulated from the same place of articulation, but what is the difference? Aspiration. Okay. So color helps us to distinguish objects one from another. Moreover, there is a pattern, there is a continuity in color. Just like a spectrum, you will see the whole continuity there. So it is difficult also to mark the boundary, because they are in continuation. But for pragmatic reason, we do it. But that doesn't mean in music also. When you, sir is here, the great musician, if you take one note and move to another note, higher or lower, then you touch simply all the notes in between, and then you stay on that particular note, right? So touching all these. So this is the pattern. Okay. Language, as I was saying the other day, it's metrical, it's musical also. Metrical and musical. That's why Sanskrit word is Vani, musical speech, full of musical qualities. Vani. Language is a matter of meditation. This culture only teaches. It has to be meditated upon, right? Think of those bij akshar, seed sounds, bij akshara, mantras. They don't have any dictionary meaning. Okay? They don't have any conventional social meaning that we discussed. But in themselves, they are ontological. They are ontological in themselves. They need to be meditated upon. Okay? And in Tantra, you have the whole system. I'm talking about all tantras which are available in our culture, that the whole world is manifested through these speech sounds, Varanoday, Varanaka-uday, rising of the speech sounds. These are creative, these are ontological. So many aspects of language. This is just to give you a glimpse and how seriously and multidimensional is the approach about language in this culture. So here you see Vijnana, Vedana, knowledge, it helps us to know. Samgya, it made us aware of, and I was referring to Patanjali's definition of Shabda. In his Mahabhashya, this is the grand commentary. Mahabhashya is a grand commentary. Are you getting there? Any difficulty? Huh? Why don't you come here? Huh? Okay. So Patanjali, a great grammarian of first century BC, he is first second century 150 BC. He is defining Shabda word in one sense, that yeno charitena sasna langul kakadukuru vishaninam sampratyo bhavati sa Shabda. This is the line. That which when articulated brings the cognition of the object into the hearer's mind is Shabda. Okay? That which when articulated brings the cognition, this is important, sampratyayo bhavati. Sampratya means cognition, perfect cognition. You never fail to understand it. Huh? Sampratyayo bhavati sa Shabda, that which brings that which when articulated, otherwise we won't get, words are within us, unless it is articulated, nothing can be communicated in that way. So that which when articulated brings the cognition of the object into the hearer's mind is Shabda, right? So Shabda, word and cognition, both are intertwined, right? Word and cognition, in other words we can say meaning, let us say meaning, are intertwined. They cannot be separated. So word cannot be meaningless, right? If there is word, there has to be certain meaning associated with. Even in the examples yesterday we were giving that something like rabbit's horn. There is a meaning associated. Maybe the meaning is non-existence, meaning is non-presence, okay? But the meaning is there because you are using it and you are using with certain meaning, certain sense, right? So this is important, and then you will see that samskara, the last one is samskara, the impression which we receive. So it remains there in the sense that we learn it and it becomes the part of our psyche. Word meaning relationship, word as well as meaning and the relationship between the two. Three things are there, no? Word, meaning and the relationship between the two. Siddhe Shabdarth Sambandhe. This is how Vartik, one of the commentary text on Patanjali, Panini's Ashtadhyayi grammar tells us. So all three are established. Word, right? Word, meaning is also established. We don't create meaning. Meaning is there in the world. People use it. Okay? People use the word. People use the word in a particular sense. So meaning is also there. This is not the task of the grammarian to create meaning. Okay? So word, meaning and the relationship between the two. These three things are very, very important to understand. This will help us when we discuss Buddhist theory of meaning also, right? Three things: word, meaning and the relationship between the two. I am giving another set of terms: vachak, vachak, vachya and sambandha, right? वाचक, वाचक, वाच्य and संबंध. संबंध means relationship between the two. Vachak, word. It took very long for the European linguists to understand the distinction between vachak and vachya. That shabda, word, has two aspects. Shabda or word, shabda has two aspects: vachak and vachya. This is that which we articulate. Saussure calls it signifier, and this one is vachya, signified. Sign has, verbal sign has two parts. This is signifier and this is signified. Remember, both are internal, conceptual. Both are conceptual. Okay? So that's why when we name an object, it becomes the part of our psyche. Naming means you are internalizing things. So vachak and vachya. Why sambandh is important here? Any observation? Why this relationship is important between the vachak and vachya?
For language to work, for behavior, and we don't have that sambandha, we will not really have language. And if I say apple, that must signify that or vachya.
Right, right, yes. Otherwise, any word would mean anything. Then communication may not be possible. So it has to be established. The relationship between vachak and vachya has to be established. And who is going to establish? The world which is using the language. We are not there. Language pre-exists before our existence, you know. We were born in a speech community. So it is there. Okay. So this we don't need to establish. But this is how the structure goes on. Right. And then rupa. All these four together constitute a particular form. Okay. Associated with a particular form. So the world is made of, constituted by name and form. Name and form. Right. See the next one. Now we are moving to these two philosophical systems, in fact branches of Buddhism, Madhyamikas and Yogachara. These are important for this theory of meaning and literary analysis. That's why I am talking about them. we are first going to discuss Madhyamikas. Vijnanavada is more important in this sense for this theory of meaning, because this theory of meaning, Buddhist theory of meaning, was expounded mainly by the Vijnanavadi acharyas, Vijnanavadi scholars. So let's first discuss this one, then we will discuss it in detail. The source of Madhyamikas are there in the Pragya Paramita Sutras and Ratnakirti. These are the two texts, where this kind of thought is available. Later on, these Madhyamikas developed as a distinct philosophical branch. This is their contribution, right? It's the Majjhim Nikaya. Buddha has been always talking about the middle path, middle path. This is ethically correct. Also, from the point of view of meditation, Madhyam path, Madhyam marg is emphasized, because there are three, what we call nadi veins, Ida and Pingala, and the middle is Sushumna. So Madhyam, the great Kundalini serpent power moves through this middle path. So in both ways this is relevant. In the worldly affair also, one should not take extreme views, right? In philosophy also, Uchchedavada, that nothing is there, nothing is permanent, and Shashvatvada, that everything is permanent. So avoiding both the extremes, Buddha took the principle of path of this middle, Majjhim Nikaya, right? That's why you see the Madhyamikas derived this name, philosophical name for their philosophical system from this basic fundamental principle, Madhyamikas, Madhyam Marga, right? You see, our great thinkers are not those who have initiated a new stream of thought, but greater are those, they are great of course, but greater are those who have brought about this synthesis between the multiple thought systems. You see, during his time, 62 such streams of thought were prevalent. This is discussed in Brahmajala Sutta. Buddha records all these. Now it is recorded by his disciples, let us say, in this Sutta, Brahmajala Sutta. Now each one is a philosopher, expounding his or her own theory, just like modern day scholarship. So it is a greater task to synthesize all this and form a very mighty, robust thought system. This is the contribution. And then Shunya is accepted here, Shunya, as the transcendental reality. Shunya is transcendental, because this refers to the Madhyam. Shunya is another name for the Madhyam, middle path. How? How? You know the numericals, positive and negative. And numbers are positive and negative, right? How do you decide that this particular number is positive or negative? Okay. Number line. Then which side?
The right of the zero is positive.
So first you have to posit 0, right? First you have to posit 0. Not necessarily 0, Shunya, right? Shunya. ठीक है ना? It's a contribution, India's contribution to the world, right? Shunya. So Shunya is to be posited. To be posited, it is not established. You have to accept. Otherwise, no enumeration is possible, right? No enumeration. Enumeration means what? Knowledge of the objects in the world. Nothing is possible. How do you decide the sequence? How do you decide multiplicity, right? Everything is to be explained with reference to these numerals. So that has to be positive. This is up to you. Up to you. where you are going to posit this shunya. Okay? I wonder, is there any script in which shunya is represented in just not in the form of circle?
Indians,
No, any India, so we don't.
in Chinese, I think they write it Ling and they have very elaborate design.
Also pictographic, that is pictographic. Yeah? Just explore it. This is interesting because this represents an endlessness also, circular, you know. So this is up to you which point you think which is the beginning point for you or other. Okay, you have to select, right? Otherwise there is no particular beginning or particular end here. Well, so once this is posited, then this side is negative, this side is positive. What is the position of this shunya here? Middle, between the two. And with this reference we decide everything. Okay? So that which helps us decide everything in itself is non-defined. In itself it is non-defined. How do you define it? And Nagarjuna later on we'll see that this in the next time maybe. He says that Buddha was in fact talking about expounding this principle of Madhyam Nikaya, Madhyam Marga, middle path, and he was probably explaining this Paramartha. This is the transcendental, which is Shunya is it only negative? Is it only positive? Everything is decided by Shunya, but what is in itself? Is it negative number? Is it a positive number? No. See this dilemma. That which defines everything in itself is not defined, cannot be defined. But this can be, explained with reference to these two things. So it is both, it is minus, it is plus, it is both, or it is none, neither positive nor negative, right? And here we lose our ability to think beyond through our intellect. Our mind can think only in these four ways: positive, negative, both, and none. Right? Now the question is important. Should we accept that the limitation of mind is also the limitation of reality? This is the question. Moreover, our mind is structuring reality in these four ways. Right? Should we accept that structured reality, okay, as the reality? These two things are important, these two questions. Okay? So what is the way out now? Leave it to Mahatma Buddha. Okay? We are not concerned. Let's go. But questions are pertinent even today, because this helps us to move beyond. Think of more competent tools and techniques, and more methods can be explored for better explanation of all such things. Right? Shunya is the transcendental reality, and the theory expounded on the basis of this assumption is Shunyavada. Shunyavada. Theory of, sometimes it is translated as nihilism, which is totally incorrect. So don't get trapped. So Shunya, I had read a book, it's a science book. Something is called nothing. This is the title. Something is called nothing. Right. So here you have the Madhyamik Karika of Nagarjuna, 1st, 2nd century. He was born in a Brahmin family in Vidarbha, Barar in modern days, residing at Sri Mountain. Sri Mountain is Sri Shaile Mallikarjunam. This is one of the Jyotirlinga. Sri Shaile in Andhra, right? Andhra Pradesh.
Sir, you mentioned
Yeah?
You mentioned that the Shoonya is different from nihilism, right?
Yes.
How do you define that?
Nihilism refers to nothingness, no? We are not talking about nothingness. It is everything, in fact. It is everything. Positive, negative, both, none, and even beyond. Even beyond. Right? So it cannot be translated.
In mathematics, you have two types of set. One is called null set, the other set which has zero as a number.
Right.
You make a distinction.
So this distinction is to, that's why I told you zero cannot be the translation. Okay? And then you have Nagarjuna, of course, the founding acharya, founding exponent, and then in 6th century you have Bhavya, who is also known as Bhava Viveka. He is a Prasangika, Prasangika and Buddha Palit. These are the two important prasthanas, two important streams. And then Prasangik was from Odisha and Buddha Palit was from Vallabhi, Gujarat. In between 1st century and 5th century, you don't find many acharyas. This is again an important aspect. What happened to India between 1st century to 5th century? We have very few texts. In poetics also, sir. You see Bharat Muni, after Bharat Muni you have Bhama. Huh? So what happened? This has to be explored. This is not to say that nothing was composed in this period, because Bhama, a poetician, refers to many previous acharyas, previous exponents, but their texts are not available to us. But something here also you can see. Between 1st to 5th centuries, this period is to be explored widely from the point of view of intellectual tradition, right? So Swatantrika and here Buddha Pali, Bhavivek or Bhavya represents this Prasangika, and Buddha Palit represents this Swatantrik, right? Swatantrik, independent thought system. In this, these are the two branches of this Madhyamika. Okay. Then you have these are the texts. Nagarjuna has composed these many texts: Madhyamik Karika, Yukti, Sthitika, and Pramana Vidhvansan, and Upaya Kaushala. These three texts, though they were written in Sanskrit, but they are no longer available to us. They are there in the Bhot language, translated into the Bhot language. And then Vigraha Vyavartini. This is a very important treatise for exposition of Shunya. And then Suhir Lekha, again not available in Sanskrit now, and available in the Bhut language, what we call it today Tibetan, right? And Chatuhastava, this is the a kind of what to call a kind of prayer in this sense. This text is composed. And then you have Aryadeva in the same tradition. Aryadeva, also known as Kanadeva, a disciple of Nagarjuna, visited your university, right? Nalanda. He was a great disciple. In fact, there is a narrative that a scholar called Matrichet, he came to Nalanda and he wanted to engage in debate with the Buddhist scholars here. So he was a great scholar, of course. That's why these monks sent a message to Nagarjuna that you come and defend us. Okay, Nagarjuna was in Andhra, so he sent his one of his worthy disciple, Aryadeva, and on the way he met a kind of a spirit, कोई पिशाच योनि का व्यक्ति मिल गया उनको, and then he said that I can't see, you please give me one of your eyes, and he took out his eyes and donated to him. When he reached here, he was having just one eye. Okay, so that's why he is also known as Karnadev. No, Karnadev. This is his name. And then he defeated that Matricheta scholar and initiated him in Buddhism. All this happened in Nalanda. Okay. Then you have Buddha Palita, and this is his text, Akuto Bhaya, a commentary on Madhyamik Karika. Then you have Bhav Vivek also known as Bhavya. Then Chandrakirti, Shantideva, he became the head of Nalanda here, and who wrote Shiksha Samucchay, Sutra Samucchay and Bodhicharyavatara. And then very, very important philosopher, you have Shantarakshita. Shantarakshita will come when we will discuss Buddhist theory of meaning later on. His text is called Tattva Sangraha. He is a Swatantra Madhyamika, Swatantra, independent Madhyamika, as earlier it was one Prasangik and Madhyamik. So this is how it goes on. And then you have epistemology, Madhyamika's epistemology. This is very important, that Nagarjuna is said to be a Acharya, exponent, who in fact rejected all sorts of ontological categories and epistemological categories. Okay? He is known as Pramana Vidvansak Acharya, Pramana Vidvansak, who has rejected, nullified all these epistemological tools and means. When he examined them, and you will be very, impressed the way he rejects logically all these ontological and epistemological tools. So you will see this. I am not going into those things, but that which are relevant here. So examination of satta, ontological object, says it is shunya. Ontological element is only shunya, not the chitta. चित्त, इसको देखना है. चित्त, चित्त means, sorry. Chitta means it's a part of the four what we call apparatus: मन, बुद्धि, चित्त and अहंकार. मन, बुद्धि, चित्त and अहंकार. मन, बुद्धि, चित्त and अहंकार. This is called antahkaran chatushtay, inner apparatus, something like this. In the knowing process, we apply them. Man, mind. Very loose translation, okay? Buddhi, intellect. Chitta, the receptive self, we can call it. Self. And the form of the self, that is constituted by all the impressions which we receive from these three levels. Okay? Impressions. Aham akar. The self takes a form. Here, this is not the real self. Please remember, ahankar is not the real self, but the self created by these impressions. Okay? Impressions which we get through man, buddhi and chitta. Now, this is important. Chitta in Buddhism is derived from the verbal root chi, right? Chi. You know, in Sanskrit etymology, words are derived from a particular verbal roots, generally verbal roots, though there are other nominal roots also, but mostly these are verbal roots. Sanskrit words are derived like that. So you have word like Ved, Vidya, Vidwan, Vidushi, and what is the common phonetic form? Vid. So that will be the root. That will be the root, and the meaning of the root is decided when we etymologize them. When we expound this meaning, basis on the use, we decide more than one meaning of this root, and then accordingly, as per the context, one particular meaning is adapted. Right?
With is the root for video also.
Video also. Same root. To see. To see. To know means to see in that way. So, chi means to select, to pick up. Chinoti. Right? Chinoti. Not chetayati, as we discussed in Vedanta and other systems. These are the subtle things one should know. Otherwise, if you apply the same definition, same meaning of Vedanta and other systems in Buddhism, it will be miserable, definitely. You know? So one should know. So Chit is derived from Chi. There are other systems. For example, बार बार यही आ जाता है काश्मीर शैविज्म क्या करें. In Kashmir Shaivism, it is also called Trik philosophy of Kashmir. This is such a common term, no? It appears in almost all disciplines, not only in philosophy, also in poetics, also in other places. In Yoga system also you have. So, you have a Chit and Chitta. See this. This is in Kashmir Shaivism, Trik philosophy. Chit and Chitta are derived from the verbal root Chit. Chitta, not Chi. Right? But Vedanta doesn't make distinction between the two. Right? Here we make a distinction in Kashmir Shaivism. Technically, Chit refers to universal consciousness. Universal consciousness, Vishwa Chaitanya को कहते हैं, and Chit refers to individual consciousness. Chitta refers to individual. So the whole process is to become from Chitta to Chitta. The universal self becomes individual. This is the creative process. This is the world. This is our world. Chitta. Then where is the moksha? Moksha is the other way. To return to this substratum again. Right? And there are processes involved. They are widely discussed. So, this is the difference. So, Chitta selects impressions and stores it there. Impressions are selected and stored there. Now, under Man, under Man you have 5 knowing senses. You know, all these eyes, tongue, skin, etc. All these 5 knowing senses. These are physical. Okay? If mind is not associated with them, nothing can be understood. Right? Nothing can be understood. So, 5 knowing senses plus Man. Right? This is called Pravritti Vijnana. Pravritti. I am using the terminology of Vijnanavadi, please, because it is relevant here. We cannot leave it here. Pravritti Vijnana. Knowledge gained through these 5 knowing senses. When mind is associated with them, mind is behind them. Right? So, mind is also known as Samantar Pratyaya, intermediate, instrument that relates the external world with the internal world. Samantar Pratyaya, mind. Then Buddhi. Buddhi is intellect. Here we decide about this impression. Mind doesn't, it simply processes, but a result, a definite idea or concept is formed at the level of buddhi. So it's a kind of determination, okay? Determining. And then it goes to chitta. This knowledge which is decided here, okay, decided here, it inheres into this chitta. And chitta is supposed to be an alay, storehouse. This is how it is loosely translated. Storehouse consciousness, storehouse. So whatever we receive at this level, it goes down in the chitta and stays there. Chitta is alay. Alay means a dwelling place. So all these impressions are stored here, right? And that's why it is called alay vijnana also. 5 vijnanas relating to 5 knowing senses. Then mano vijnana, 5 senses. Pravritti vijnana, these are 5 in number. 6th is mano vijnana, right? 6th is mano vijnana. 7th is this alay vijnana chitta, relating to chitta. Okay, this is called storehouse consciousness. This is beautifully described in Lankavatar Sutra, right? Lankavatar Sutra, the Mahayana text. And what we are, in fact, is the impression constituted by these levels. Constituted by these levels, mana, buddhi and chitta. The impressions which we receive, the way we analyze, and how it is stored there, depending on the intensity of the experience, it is stored there for longer time. If the experiences are intense, then it will stay for longer time, and it alters our self. A specific form of our self is constituted, right? So this is ahamkara. Now we are discussing another contribution of Buddhism, and that is the Panchakosha theory of Upanishad. It is elaborated in this way, in much more sophisticated way. What are these Panchakosha? 5 koshas, right? Annamay, pranamay, see this interaction. This is what I wanted to highlight, that it is not in isolation. Okay, things are interrelated. So Panchakosh was earlier in Upanishad also. In Vivek Chudamani, Shantarakshita describes in detail all these 5 koshas. Annamay kosh, pranamay kosh, then manomay kosh, then vijnanamay kosh, and finally anandamay kosh. Add kosh everywhere, like this. Okay, so annamay, pranamay, this is gross physical experience sheath. There are 5 sheaths. So this is annamay, gross physical. Pranamay, that is vital, manomay, referring to mind, and then vijnanamay refers to buddhi, and then finally anandamay, state of blissfulness. Why? And the Atman is beyond this anandamay kosh. Atman, then you have Atman here. Atman. Since it is closer to this, that's why it is called anandamay. Self is full of bliss, and this is the idea. The world is full of suffering, and the goal is to achieve this, which is the seat of blissfulness, right? Through various processes, through knowledge, through meditation, and various other ways. This is how it goes on. So the same is transferred in this form, and then it is discussed at length by the Vijnanvadin Acharyas. Right. So you have then he says that okay, chi and chitta, got the distinction between the two, right? And nahi chittam chittam pashyati, he is rejecting, Nagarjuna is rejecting this notion of chitta of the Vijnanavadins, that chitta is not the ultimate self as you have been positing, because chitta cannot see itself, right? Chitta cannot see itself. How to know chitta as posited by the Vijnanavadin as transcendental reality? How do you know that there is a self, there is chitta? चित्त को कैसे जानेंगे? If somebody says that there is chitta, which means of knowledge helps us to know it? This is the question. If you say chitta is known through chitta itself, we cannot say chitta is known by this object or by some other, because there is also chitta. Huh? So why we cannot say? Because the position theoretical position taken by the Vijnanavadins is that this is the chitta that manifests in multiple forms outside. So ultimate reality is what? Chitta itself. So how to know it? If outside is no object, real object, which can be used as an epistemological tool, how do you know this chitta? And if you say that chitta is known by chitta, then Buddha Vachana is nahi chittam chittam pashyati. Chitta cannot see itself. He gives another example. Sword cannot cut itself. You want to cut something, but how do you cut sword? How do you know the sword itself? Right? So these are the issues. And then knower and knowledge knower, knowable and knowledge. Sorry, one is missing. Oh, sorry, knowable. Yet, knowable, knower and knowledge, all are three different elements. You cannot combine them together. There is knower, there is knowable, and the knowledge itself. So these cannot be combined together. They have distinct identities, right? So it is difficult to establish chitta. Now, examination of Karanavad. Karanavad is a theory of causality. So cause and effect are relative. If there is cause, there is effect. And the very famous example is yatra yatra dhumas tatra tatra vahni. Wherever you see smoke, there has to be fire. और भी उदाहरण सोचना चाहिए. We are repeating, but good. Maintain a tradition, right? So wherever there is smoke, there is fire. Can we say in the other way also? Where there is fire, there will be a smoke. No, this may not be possible, right? May not be possible. So what is a smoke here? A smoke is a subject of perception. A smoke is perceived and fire is inferred. So the knowledge of fire will be indirect knowledge, right? Direct is perception. Even perception is not direct, but we will discuss later on, right? Perception is also not direct. So smoke is a sign. We call it linga, sign. And then from this, just like a verbal sign, this is also a sign, pictorial sign, this is also a sign. If you want to study in detail about this sign system, you should go to, who was that, sir? C.S. Peirce, no? C.S. Peirce. Maybe there are 59,000 types of sign in nature. 59,000. So we are unique being. We deal with these signs. Human beings deal with these signs. We are sign makers also. We make signs. This all this is, you see, this is also sign. What is there like this? Bodily. So then he says that cause and effect are relative, dependent on each other. So smoke is the effect, fire is the cause, right? And both are intrinsically related to each other, right? You see, hence the product karya do not have any ontological basis. If there is no cause, there will be no effect. There is no cause, there is no effect. So the world is made of such causal relationships, causal elements. In this is what we are discussing. Remember, pratitya samutpada. We are discussing simply the theory of dependent relative causation, right? So if the object is product of certain other things, then what will be its self nature? What will be its self nature, right? So a product is made of several things when they come together and constitute a particular object. Then what will be the self nature of an object if all the objects are product of this karanvad, karya karanvad? So the object is devoid of its self nature, nisvabhava. We call it nisvabhava. Nisvabhava. Without any self nature. Sarvam anityam, sarvam anatmam. These were the foundational principles. Sarvam anityam, because things are in momentariness, things are in constant change, and anatma, because they are dependent on the cause. A product is in fact the culmination of a certain causal process. Then he says that padartha or object is not born on its own. There has to be certain causal factors, not with the help of others. It is not also with the help of others, neither by both. Because why he is saying like this? Because other objects are also dependent on their causal relationships. So there is no other that can help to this object manifest or to come into being, neither by both nor without causal elements. And in this way, examination, in this rigorous examination of object, padartha, it appears to be devoid of self nature. There is no self within. We accept self, but only for the pragmatic reasons, not for the ontological reasons. They are not ontological at all. And then he examines parinam. Parinam means in fact change, of course change, but what kind of change? You see waves in the ocean. What are the ontological status of these waves? Are they different from water? They are not different, but they bear two different names, water and wave, right? So coming back to language, one of the specific elements, language hides differences, language creates differences. Here also you see language is creating difference. Though ontologically object is same, water, but you are giving two different names and the basic substratum is somehow overlooked, right? So here you will see there are three terms. Maybe you will note it down, discuss later on with your teachers here. Vivarta, 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 vikar and parinam. Parinam. Three things. Sometimes they are taken as synonyms, but I don't think they are same. Right? Vivarta, vikar and parinam. All these terms are used by Bhartrihari in his Vakya Padiye. Vivarta, vikar and parinam. And this is the great challenge before us. How to interpret, how to understand Bhartrihari's philosophy of language. So here also you will see that he is examining parinam. All are change, you know. So one change is like this, wave and water. Another is old, young man becomes old, right? Or milk becomes curd, right? This is also a change of state. But is it possible that curd is transformed back to its original form, milk? Are these two different elements or the manifestation of the same? Same? Difficult to say. Because both have different characteristics. Curd and milk now both have different characteristics. It has become a different object, right? It has become a different object. Young and old. Old cannot be maybe Chavanprash. So there are, for every grand rule there are grand exceptions also, right? Grand exceptions. Anyways, but this is the situation, okay? When we say Kshanabhanga, in no two successive moment object is same, then is it possible to come back to the previous state? Is it possible to rotate the wheel in opposite direction? So what kind of change we are facing? What kind of, so when he examines this, he says that even parinam, young person becomes old, milk takes the form of curd. So even if you take parinam as the basis of change in the world, each time a new thing is being created. It is not the repetition of the same. Right? Then comes this the position about the world. Since the world is, the very beautiful term is Jagat and Sansar. Jagat and Samsara. Sanskrit terms are very, full of meaning in this way. Jagat has the essence of meaning of going, moving all the time. Samsarati also movement. It continues. Nobody is going to say when it will stop, when it will cease to exist. But it is moving all the time. We cannot say when it started and when it will cease to exist. Right? But it is moving. Jagat and Sansara. This is how it goes on. And since this is the position, then how can we ascertain that the world is born, or it is non-destructible? It will, because we know that which has a birth will get destroyed ultimately. Okay? When it is not born, then it is also non-destructible. When it is not has any origin. But we know for certain that there are certain causal elements, and this is how dharma, the subtlest particles which is non-divisible now, is the basis of all such things. In Buddhism we call it dharma sanghata. So this dharma santati, dharma sanghata, objects are made of the collection of these dharmas, and so new objects. So dharma might have its own nature, but when they are bound together, they come together and constitute an object, a padartha. Each object is made of certain dharmas. So the object itself do not have any self nature. right? And dharma is what? That it's changing all the time, all the time. It's moving and changing all the time. It appears a bit difficult to understand, but do we really see the object as it is? For example, if we look into the dynamics of an atom within, is it stable or it is in movement all the time? It is in movement all the time, but we do not perceive, and that's why the world appears the way we see it, right? So here also you will see that it is difficult to talk about the world, and it cannot be established. Examination of Swabhava, if the world is product of Hetu, cause, Hetu means cause, right? Then it holds no independent status. If the object is dependent on certain causal elements, then how can we say that it has its own existence? If the causes are not there, as in the case of suffering, suffering is caused by something. If causal elements are eradicated, then there will be no suffering, right? So in this way, examination of Swabhava is also done, and there are so many things like Dravya, Parinam, etc. All such things are described. Now coming to this epistemological aspect, one very important point is that that's why he is known as the Pramana Vidhvansak Acharya. He rejected all the means of knowledge ontologically, please remember. For pragmatic reasons, these are okay, acceptable. But for Paramarthik Satya, all means are rejected, or their incompetence is established by Nagarjuna. First of all, there are various means of knowledge, as like perception. Would you like to note it down? Perception, inference, verbal testimony, then upaman, analogy, then postulation, arthapatti, absence, anuplabdhi, like this. So you will see that each one of them have their relative strength or weakness. Strength and weakness. For example, pratyaksha is accepted by all, but the definition of pratyaksha differ in different philosophical systems. Pratyaksha means perception. It differs from one philosophical system to another. Now, nobody can say that I have seen the way reality is there. Okay? It is difficult to claim, right? Unless we move beyond this epistemological frame, right? So, first of all, it is difficult to ascertain the relative strength and weakness of these epistemological tools. That's why they cannot be accepted. Second, how would you examine a particular epistemological mode or method? How you will examine, for example, perception? To what extent it has strength or weakness? Once you start examining perception, then you will use another tool, maybe inference or any other things. Okay? In this case, perception will be the object of knowledge. It will no longer be an epistemological tool. So you can examine as a perception as ontology, but not as epistemology, because that will become the object of knowledge, right? So, and you are going to ascertain it by using another epistemological tool, right? So in this way we are trapped, and in this way we will not be able to examine any means of knowledge, because the moment we start examining them, they become object of knowledge, they become ontological. So as an epistemology, their strength cannot be examined, and we are using these unexamined things for knowledge of the reality and world and self and all these things. Okay? To what extent this knowledge is reliable, right? So always ask yourself, we should ask ourselves, how do we know what we know? How do we know? And whatever we have known, is that reliable? Is that reliable? No need to get disappointed. There are other ways to transcend this kind of trap. But this is the situation. This is our worldly experience. This is how we claim that I know something. I know this particular object. So to what extent that knowledge is perfect, to what extent that knowledge is reliable, all such things are before you. And I'll stop by saying just one thing. In research also, we claim to know something, no? When we go through extensive, methodological and all such approaches, and we decide, and finally we say that I have established this thing. Okay? Research in a way is a humbling experience, isn't it? You become humble because you only know that what you don't know, right? So this is again to be fair, to be fair to your own self. We can befool others, but you should have pity for those who are befooling themselves. Okay? So idea is to see, to know, and to get rid of this kind of worldly suffering, which is generally caused by this kind of wrong approach, biased approach, and claiming that everything is known to me, at least, like that. So this is the idea, and maybe a great message to India's intellectual tradition, and particularly of Mahatma Buddha also. Should we stop, sir, here? Thank you very much. And
Questions?
You said that there is a void.
hmm?
You mentioned that there is a void of kind of scholarly evidences. I mean, there must be, but for that we see right? So I was just thinking that that was also the time when Greek, Roman, and Indian civilization kind of came together,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
How to say it? Was it a kind of recalibrating the culture
Hmm.
for which, I mean, to forget the Greek influences?
I don't know, but this is a matter of research, no?
Yes.
It's a matter of research. Maybe you are coming in contact with the other cultures, and what dynamics are there, what changes are taking place. This is a matter of, in fact, investigation, and I don't think there is much research available on this. So that's a major research area before us. And just to tell you that there are references of this period, but sometimes texts are not there, sometimes descriptions are not very discrete in that sense. So on the basis of whatever evidence we have, textual or epigraphical or many other ways, we should try to explore this area, because this really makes us puzzled, that in a continuous tradition, and I'm sure that tradition is not ruptured, things are there, lots of activities might have been going on, but that has to be explored, in fact, that has to be explored in Buddhism also, in Jainism, and many more other thought systems. Okay, fine then, see you then tomorrow.
Any other questions?
Yes.
That's what can this go wrong.
Niswa bhav. Huh.
And if there is no self-nature, does the
I couldn't.
And about is as a separate existence. Can explain about
Actually, Niswabhav is here discussed with reference to what we call Paramarthik Satya, right? Paramarthik. For pragmatic phenomenal world, Swabhav is accepted. Swabhav is accepted. Otherwise, how do you behave with this reality? You know. So, for pragmatic reasons, it is there. But if you start examining them, then you will find nothing. This is just like the sheath of an onion. You know, you keep separating, and finally, what you get? What did you get? Nothing. It is there. Something is there, right?
this will be compared.
Yeah.
This will be compared if you try like you keep an example.
Huh.
If you try to build
Huh.
the onion,
Huh.
you will find out this means that this empty.
This is a theoretical position called Niralambanvad. Niralambanvad. That there is no substratum. There is no substratum. Things are there, but there is no substratum for that. Niralambanvad. So the world is not born. The world is not born. And what we see, Ajatavad, this is what we call Ajatavad. Right? This is also in Vedanta. The world which we see is not born. I refer to the text called Yoga Vasishtha. Beautiful narratives are there to explain this. Ajatavad. Ajatavad. And Niralambanvad. Lamban. Okay. So there is no substratum on which certain things are there, and this is Ajatavad. Nothing is born. Nothing is a product. Ontologically examining things, it will be you will come to this conclusion that the world is never born. It is simply not there. Whatever we see is fine, but that is ontologically not consistent in that way, acceptable.
You mentioned that the Panchakosha
Yeah.
were translated into Panchaskandha. Not translated in the sense
Huh.
of
Elaboration is the
structured
time.
in a
Huh.
way,
Yeah.
similar manner.
Elaboration.
Where do we put the pranamaya?
Annamaya, pranamaya, it refers to the sensory perceptions. One is depending on the knowing senses, other is dependent on the karmendriya, organs of action. So this will come again. You see pancha vijnana, and then under that itself it will be included. It will be included under that. It's not separate category given.
Prana is also very much
All motor activities, sensory.
becomes yogic process later.
That is there in the yogic tradition,
Yeah, so
meditation.
prana is not that
Prana is, in fact, in the combination of 5, it is one of them. Prana, Apan, Udan, Vyana, like this. So it helps us, that breath that helps us to sustain life is called prana. So pranayam and all such things are done.
because other than rupa, these things were mental activity, and prana, as far as I know,
Prana is the vital principle, no? So that helps us to function these 5 senses. Otherwise, there will be no life here.
but it's not antahkara.
Not antahkara, certainly not. Anything else? Fine. Thank you very much.